moderators to my channel. Okay. Welcome to my chat. Okay, so if this fails, I'm looking at a lot of my face right now. You know, like when you're in those like rotating mirrors at the dress shop, like the fancy dress shops, that's what it feels like. I've got 3. So I'm gonna get Facebook up and running. I've got TikTok and YouTube up and running. Welcome in, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Thought we would pop on just a little bit early because I want to make sure I have enough time to get all 3 screens up and running. Get everybody in here. Good evening, Roddy girl. This is a lot. Okay, get embed code, settings, dashboard. I need to go live. I have never, that's not true. I've never done a formal live. On Facebook. Enable event logs. Why won't it let me go live? What does it think I need to do? Okay. How's my audio? I can take the mic off if I need to. The number of my viewers hit an all-time high for a lot. I don't know how to make this go. Why? Audience settings. Public save. And this is why. I don't know if my internet is going, hey, Roddy girl. Yeah, Hot Mess Equines is always, I mean, it's always hit and miss, but I don't even know that I've ever gone live on YouTube, though. I think it's a YouTube first. Sorry, guys. Let me get this set up on Facebook. It seems to be. Is Zen Dressage in here yet? Zen Dressage, if you're in, there's like a little blue and pink button at the bottom that says request invite. Or if you go live, I can request to host you. I think if you go live, it shows up better if you, yeah, go live and I'll request to host you. Just let me know you're going somewhere in the chat. I think YouTube's getting mad that I'm not. Zen Dressage is in the house. All right, Zen Dressage. I think we get better screens if you go live and then I co-host with you than if you request to join. So now that you're here, if you go live and then I can go and request the co-host. Wow, look at all the people that are in here for all the hot gossip. These are my people. How's everyone doing? I am trying to start this live on Facebook and it's not cooperating. It might be the 8 million tabs that I have open. It worked earlier today. Oh, thanks for the hot air balloons.
Is it working?
Well, I want you as a big.
I turned my camera on, but I can't see it.
This is why we got here early.
Yes.
Tech.
Okay. I've literally never used TikTok. Okay.
Can you be quiet for the next hour? That seems like Mission Impossible.
Oh, wait, I think I figured out.
So
it says you'll...
Hey, come here. You want a treat? So if you tap on yourself, there should be at the top of it, there should be a microphone and oh, do you not have 500 followers? How many followers do you have, Zen Dressage?
I don't even use TikTok. It says live action. Go live on audio. I go start.
Oh, well, we might have to do this on a different platform. I don't know if there's another platform that allows you to connect like this, though.
Just let me know if you have any suggestions. I'll give them.
Do you have a computer?
Yep, like, I have my laptop.
No, do you have a computer open? Some people are saying they're echoing a lot.
I have a laptop, but it's not on.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just on TikTok. Maybe I'll put it back.
Here, let me try. Are you on? Hang on. Let me.
Now I can't hear anything.
That's because I muted my microphone to see if that helps.
I try
Should
starting a live?
I don't think you can start a live because I don't think you have enough people. So if you go into your settings, you should be able to turn on your camera. So either
Yeah, my camera's on. Like the permissions there. Just hang on, I'm gonna. Technically challenged.
okay, I turned down my speakers. I have StreamYard, but I don't think I can set it up that quickly. Sorry, guys.
I'm gonna make sure all the permissions are on because I did that before we got on just to make sure.
Okay. Okay, excellent.
So it must be because of the follower thing.
I'm trying to see if it'll like. So if you tap, can you find your mute button? Like if you tap on your own screen, like without going to the settings, there should be like the little video camera and the little microphone. Can you see those?
Yeah, I can mute myself, but when I go to select the little video camera, this thing pops up at the top and it says live access needed to go live on video as guest. You can go live on audio, and then that's all it says. But the little X doesn't leave the video camera, so like it doesn't.
Well, that's no fun.
I know.
So what do you guys want to, who's loud? So what do you guys want to do? So I don't think there's another platform aside from like Zoom that gives me like her face. Because I don't know that I can invite guests. Hang on, let me check on YouTube. I don't think it has that option. And I still can't get this live to go live on Facebook. So does Instagram allow you to? I'm just never on Instagram.
Instagram might work. I've never gone live on there either, but I don't think you need like a certain number of followers to do that there.
Okay, the votes are in. Let's do a little bit without your face.
Okay.
Somebody said you might have to turn on your camera permissions in your settings.
Yeah, I went out of the TikTok app and I went in settings and I did check to make sure it has permission to access my microphone and camera, and it does. I think it's just a TikTok thing with the followers, which I didn't even know.
How many followers do you have?
Probably none because I don't really post it. Can I look without closing it of this?
It's okay. Since we're gonna do a part 2 of this anyway. Thanks, Stacy.
See my face then.
Yeah, we'll do the part 1. I'll add some video and some pictures and some photos and stuff to like the audio for this because I'm going to edit it and add it to the other platforms. So let's go ahead and get started. Do the intro. Everybody can get to know you a little bit, ask some questions. We do have people over here on YouTube, and if I can ever get this Facebook to go live, then we'll have them there too. So let's go ahead and get started. Do you want to take a second and just do a quick intro as to who you are? And
Sure. My name is Shelby Ungren. You know me by my maiden name, Shelby Risser. I live in Alberta with my family where we run a small warm blood breeding operation. I just kind of train my horses at home and do my own thing, and you can read more about that on my website if you're interested. It's all here in the open.
can you guys hear on YouTube? Is that loud enough? I turned it down because of the echo, but hopefully that's working. Okay, so we've put together some notes. Shelby first reached out to me in maybe 2018, 2019.
Yeah.
And I was very clear with her. The first thing I asked her was, "Are you safe?" And I want people to know that and understand that this doesn't just happen overnight, and that there's a process behind the scenes before I publish anything. Um, so I think that's important, that people think that I just on a whim throw stuff out there, and that's not really what happens. So this was 3 or 4 years in the making as to what happened. And the first thing I asked Shelby was, "Are you safe?" And then the second thing I said is, "This is what's going to happen to you if you publish this now." And so sometimes people get really mad about whistleblowers and like, why didn't they publish it today? And one, I think the climate has changed for people to be more receptive to this kind of thing. But I also think that somebody has to be emotionally capable of taking on what it takes to be a whistleblower. And that was very much the conversation that Shelby and I had, because I said, they will come at you with a force that you won't even know what hit you. And so I said, we need to make sure that you're in a space that you're prepared to handle that. And so um, the guidelines changed a little bit, and I'll let Shelby get into that in terms of being able to report. And that's really when she decided, along with some other people, to take advantage of that opportunity. And we'll get through some of that. But I just want people to know that this isn't something that just happened overnight. And what I do behind the scenes supporting people is extensive. Okay, so let's talk about how and when you started at Good Times Stable with Evie Strasser and Tanya Strasser.
So back in 2018, I was actually employed by one of Evie's longtime clients, East, and I'd really fallen in love with the sport. I wanted to work hard. I wanted to work from the bottom and get to the top. I wanted to learn how to train the horses. And anyway, my employer, and I've been chatting with Evie, and she thought it'd be a wonderful for me to go up there. And so she gave her my record. I was so excited. At this point, like, I had idolized this. I had pictures of her. I heard a bit of her.
Shelby, I don't know if it's your stream or you keep turning your head away from the phone, or it keeps cutting in and out a little bit.
Is this a little bit better?
Yes.
Okay, I'll talk quieter. I think that's the echo. So yeah, we're OE, opportunity for me, and I was incredibly. I didn't even discuss. I'm just like, okay, I'm going to hold all of my horses but one, because I could take one with. Yeah, and I literally just with plans for 5 to 10 years to just learn how to get. Are you with me there? Can you still hear me?
So there's no audio on YouTube. Like, it's completely off. I think. Let me check my phone, but I think it's completely off on YouTube.
Okay. Are we able to just upload this to YouTube app?
Yeah, just people can hear you. She's just there. You're echoing a lot, and I think that's here. Let me cut my mic and see if that helps. Sorry, I disappeared.
I'm literally talking in a boardroom.
Okay, I don't know what I did. I changed the layout. Okay, is this better? Is it less echoey? Shelby's got to talk. I just.
All right. Is this better or worse?
Painted dressage says better. Yes. Okay.
Okay, perfect. I'm sitting on a toilet, you guys.
No,
I'm
I think it's
committed here.
I think it's me connecting disconnecting my mic. I think was the issue.
Okay, I'm in a small room too, so I'll just stay here and hope that it works. So yeah, I was working for one of Evie's clients at the time, and she was really excited about how serious I was about learning. Thought it'd be a great opportunity for me, so we set it all up. Again, I didn't really discuss pay or anything. I was just dead set on doing this. Like, you can go back and look at my posts on my social media. I was so excited. I was like, this is a dream come true.
Okay, so what happened in between? Like, what were you promised? Was it a working student position? Was it a paid position? What were your expectations? What was outlined at that point?
To be completely honest, very little of this was outlined. It was very strange, but I just kind of went with it because I was excited and I really wanted to do this. I guess technically it would be like a working student type position where I brought my own horse. So like technically my horse's board there made up most of my salary per se.
And what was board there? Like, just so people have an idea of like what that expectation would be in terms of a salary.
So I was told that training board there, which it's not that Evie was training my horse was just there and I was riding her there, but they told me it was $3,500 a month.
Okay, and then how many lessons were you getting a week?
See, in the very beginning, I kind of got there right before they were headed to Florida. So I did get a couple lessons there, but then there was like 3 months that I only seen Evie like once a month. But I was promised like this would all be worth it for me, right? Training wise, when they come back from Florida.
Okay, so when did you actually arrive at Evie's?
So I actually arrived there on New Year's Eve. I showed up right during their New Year's Eve party, and they greeted me with like open arms. They're like, "Welcome to the family. We're so excited." Blah blah blah. All seemed well at this point.
Okay, and then at that point, did you sign a contract? Did you sign any paperwork for your horse? Like, what happened? Walk me through, like, you're welcome to the family, you walk in the door. Um, what happened next?
So I get there, and like I said, it's right before they head to Florida for the winter. So everything was kind of rushed, and they were just getting things ready for their big move. And they honestly didn't, like, there wasn't a lot of discussion about what would be unfolding for me in that respect. Yeah, so the first, I believe it was 3 months, it was just me there looking after 8 horses, and her boyfriend lived there on and off, and my partner was also living there with me. But Evie and Tanya were in Florida for the first 3 months, and I did not sign a contract until they returned. So like this first period that I'm there, everything seems amazing. Because I'm there by myself, I'm looking after these horses. I have this beautiful facility at my fingertips to work my mare in. I just thought it was great. And then when they came home, I was introduced to the NDA. And I did kind of think that was a little bit strange, but then they just played it off as, oh, we just need you to sign this because we do private clinics with celebrity riders all the time. And like oddly enough, Charlotte's name was mentioned there. But anyway, that was what they used to kind of persuade me to sign the NDA. I'm like, okay, whatever, like protect people's identity. I signed the paper. And that was that. And then after that, when they first got home, I started seeing things that obviously kind of made me question things a little bit, but nothing too crazy. Like I would see horses, super overflexed, and when I kind of question these things, I would get lectured on like mental toughness and how if I wanted to be a serious trainer, like this is how you get the horses through, yada yada yada. So it kind of just started with stuff like that, and then as time went on, I started to see the real reason why they had me sign the NDA.
So, what was included in the NDA?
Um, it basically said that I can't talk about literally anything. I can't talk about training. I can't even talk about what the horses eat. Yeah, like just basically do not talk about anything that goes on here.
And did you know at the time that you can't like sign a like an NDA doesn't sign away your ability to talk about anything illegal? Did you know that? Or like, and it's not a, I mean, we're all young, right? We're all naive when we get into these situations. So,
So I'm here doing this now because I do know where I stand legally. But in the beginning, I was terrified, and like I seen how other people interacted with her and how people literally just walk around on eggshells. Like people were terrified of her, and to the point where it's very obvious. Like if you were in her barn and you've seen her, whether it's her students, her quote unquote friends, it's very evident how she treats people. And the way she had spoken about things when she got me to sign it, like how, this is very serious. And I was scared. And I was only 19 at the time, so I was definitely naive.
yeah, and you should be scared. They can be quite malicious and quite aggressive, which we saw today. If you guys saw any of the teaser videos, they're already trying to say, "Oh, we've got something." They're really twisty and underhanded and try to manipulate you into silence. And we saw that already today as we got closer to the deadline. We saw that heighten. So, I think being scared is pretty honest, right? So definitely some challenges there. Let's talk about specifically some of the abuse that you saw.
Oh God, it's honestly like hard to know where to begin because there is just so much. But I'll make a little list for you guys. Like like right now the abuse stuff coming out about riders that you're seeing these pictures and clips, and when I use the word minor, that's not me excusing this behavior at all. But this abuse that you guys are seeing, that is nothing compared to the things that I seen go on at this place. Like, I mean, overflexed horses, blue, lolling tongues, that was just like everyday stuff. I can't even describe the feeling the first time I seen them use a whip on a horse's head. This was a very common occurrence. Evie told me this is how you get them through, and when the horses would, in her opinion, act up or whatever, she would literally take the dressage whip and whip them in the top of the head. And I don't mean like an old French master holding the stick up in the air. I mean she was cracking these horses on the head to the point where their eyes were swollen shut. Like the horses could not open their eyeballs. She would go from the head to the hindquarters, from the head to the hindquarters with the whip repeatedly. So horses regularly were like covered in welts.
And was she hitting them on the head from the ground or from the saddle?
From the saddle. Yeah. Now, there was also a lot of this went on with lunging. They would put side reins on the curb bit, have the horse's chin basically on the chest, and she would expect me to lunge horses this way as well. That's how she wanted me to lunge them, and she would make me hold the lunge line for her while she chased these poor horses. And to quote unquote get them through, okay, that's how she gets them through. She just closes the front door, beats the shit out of them until they, like, some of them are just in a state of learned helplessness. Others put up more of a fight, but you're kind of getting the picture. So regularly, I had to put polysporin eye drops in these horses' eyes. The ones most often that was done to them were Romeo time, story time, Santino time. There was one time that I actually had to sand blood off of the kickboards after they finished. Apparently,
Did somebody, hang on, Shelby, did somebody, one of my mods change the settings to a sub only live? We can leave it open as long as it stays. Sorry, go ahead, Shelby.
Yep, if
Okay.
everyone can still hear me.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, so there was, the eye drops, so they finished working this horse in hand doing piaffe, and there was literally blood sprayed on the kickboards because I have trouble describing what they're actually doing to the horse because there's no method to this madness. These horses, they blindly are whipped basically until they get too tired, and then they consider the session done or whatever, and the horse is like thrown away in a stall. So there was like that. I mean, spur marks were just on the regular. Whip marks were on the regular. Horses were lunged in such a forceful way that side reins often didn't cut it. She would use stirrup leathers as side reins. Leathers to tie the horse's head.
So, I know at one point you sent me some photos of like the horse that had been hit over the head a lot. There's two things that I want to talk about. I want to talk about how they're covering up the spur marks for show season. Like, are they just letting it grow out, and that's a strategic move? Because I think that's been one of my personal questions. Is like, I know these people are causing spur marks, and I can see the damage on the horse's belly, but we're not seeing it as often from someone like her who's very strategic and crafty at the shows. As well as my other comment is, I think at one point when you sent me the picture of the horse with the eye swollen shut, I was mortified, and you were told you were not allowed to clean the wounds.
Yeah, so that was actually one of the first things that really, the first extreme episodes of abuse that I literally was in and a part of and witnessed. And I'll explain in detail here in a second. So the horse in the photos was Romeo time. And first I was riding him, okay? So I'm schooling Romeo in the arena, and he's on the ground teaching me or whatever. And she's telling me to hit him on the head, okay? She's like, hit him on the head. And then I obviously do not want to hit this horse on the head. I also had a soft spot for this horse because he truly had it the worst. And anyway, she wasn't happy with what I was doing, and I was just tapping him on the head because it's like, I don't want to do that. So she screamed at me to, pardon my French, get the fuck off the horse. And she takes the reins from me, goes over to the mounting block, mind you, whips the shit out of this poor thing who clearly doesn't want her getting on his back, so he will stand at the mounting block. And she gets on, and she's like, you're going to learn today how to get horses through, and blah, blah, blah. And she was literally berating me, like screaming this in the arena. Now, it's only us there, so no one else is hearing this. And she makes me go stand in the middle of the arena and watch what she's about to do. And she literally just... Romeo didn't even do anything for this to begin. She whips him in the ass, which obviously, what do you think happens? He leaps forward, with his whole front end coming up in the air. So then she whips him on the head. Repeat, repeat, repeat. The horse is just literally just trying to get this thing that's hurting him off, and he's running up and down the length of the arena along the kickboards, tripping into it, falling into it, all the while she's cursing, screaming, and I'm just standing there and I feel sick to my stomach. And there didn't even seem to be an indicator of what she felt made this session successful in her eyes. She just kind of got tired of beating him. I don't know how long I stood there. It felt like forever. Could have been 10 minutes, could have been an hour, I don't know. But afterwards, she hands me Romeo, and he's dripping in sweat, covered in welts. He has marks on his legs from him stepping on himself. He had, there was, he was whipped so hard that there was edema all under his belly. Like fluid had literally pooled under his belly from getting whipped. And she screamed at me. She's like, no love. This horse gets no fucking love. And she like demanded that I don't wash him. I throw him in, like I peel his tack off, put him in the stall and leave him there. And she really expected me to just leave him there in that state.
I'm going to give you a second on that because that's horrific. I'm not sure if you guys can't hear, maybe swipe out and swipe back in. I don't know. So I think that's, you can hear Shelby's trauma, and I think that's why I'm so compassionate for whistleblowers, because one, they've already been through the trauma. If chances are if a horse has been abused, they've been abused too. And they had to witness it. They have to, everyone has to go through their journey on their own time, and I think we need to allow for that, and I think that's one thing the industry has not been very good at. So yeah, it's horrific. And it's horrific when you come in as a compassionate young woman and you're told that the horse can't be, like, it's horrific to watch it, and then it's horrific to not be told you can't fix it. You're not allowed to clean the wounds, you're not allowed to dress the wounds. You're told that the horse just has to stand there with flies and mud on it and suffer. And so
Specific request or demand, I should say. It wasn't a request. She screamed at me, no love. And he, like, the beat down was so brutal with his face, like in my back. Like, this horse could not open his eyes, which there is photos of, for anyone wondering.
yeah, and I've seen them, and those were the original photos that you sent to me, and I gasped, and I was like, this is horrific. It is really quite awful. Roddy Girl wants to know what's the rationale for treating horses like this. So maybe at this point, what does Evie say to you to justify her actions?
She says that, like, this is the secret to getting them through. Getting them through is, like, her favorite phrase. Like, that's what she says when she's telling her students to, like, whip horses on the head. She's like, you have to get them through, blah, blah, blah. And then she'll lecture you. Because obviously when anyone is met with these requests, they're extremely uncomfortable. And then she goes on to preach to you that to get anywhere in this sport, it's all about mental toughness, and if you can't handle this, then, like, you might as well just fucking go home now, she would say.
So how do they, XOXO is saying, how do they hide this from the owners, and do they not come regularly and check on their horses? Now, Evie's a very special exclusion is that she owns all her own horses. She's a sales barn, so she breeds and sells her own horses. I don't know if there was any outside horses there and for training, but that's part of it, for sure. And maybe
Yeah,
that, go ahead.
private. She's very private. It's a gated private property. Like, no one's allowed on the property without permission. She has a very strong dislike for anyone having their phone on hand. Yeah, like you said, she does own most of her horses. There were 2 or 3 regular clients slash students that had their horses there that took lessons from Evie. One is actually a judge, and the other 2 are younger girls, I want to say in their 20s, and I truly believe that they are also victims in this. Like, they have been there for some of these episodes. Sorry, someone came to the door here.
I think a couple of things. I think people, it's really hard when we're all told, we're fed the lies. We're all fed the same lies that I've obviously debunked a lot at Dressage Hub, is that we're told that these people know. They know better than us because we're mere minions. So I've
Yeah.
spent many years debunking that. Like we can see. I'm live on Facebook as well now. So if you guys are having issues, you can watch it on YouTube or on Facebook as well. Um, so that's a good question. XOXO is asking if her daughter Tanya is a victim as well, or is she equally involved? And I think that's a fair question.
So to be completely honest with you, I do feel for Tanya because I genuinely cannot imagine. Like, I went through this, I was a teenager, but I was still an adult. I can't imagine dealing with this sort of like abuse and trauma and being immersed in it from day one, like as a small child. And like, there were many times that I seen like just some of the things that Evie would say to her own daughter. It's like, that's really not okay. I have no doubt that she has gone through some stuff herself. And now I'm not excusing anything she's done because she was very much participating in many of these things. But yeah.
Can you give us an example of something that she said that was really hurtful to Tanya?
Oh, she would constantly make shitty comments about like her weight and like what she's eating and stuff. And it's like, it's really sad because anyone who knows anything about that subject knows that like being bullied by someone like that, it does things to your body and it does make things worse.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes it really hard to lose weight when you're in a cortisol stress state all the time.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a really, were they not little horse girls when they started out? I think it's a family business. I think it's one of those sorts of things. Okay, I think we're good on that. Oh, back to the question about the spur marks.
Yes. So like she's just very like she knows where these horses need to be and when. So like for example, she's not going to go have a training session with one of those horses that I say she repeatedly like is extra hard on beating the crap out of them if she knows someone is coming to look at them.
So she's strategically knows how long it takes. This is awful.
It is awful, but yes, I know what you're saying, and she does know what it takes for these things to heal. And like literally, if you go to her barn and you go look in any of her horses' mouths, you will see permanently disfigured tongues from the healed lacerations. Like there's actually one horse in her barn, I think he's since passed, thank God, I hope he's resting in peace, but his tongue was so nerve damaged, and of course like everyone would joke that this is so cute, but when you think about why he's doing it, it's pretty disturbing. He would hang his tongue out of his mouth and he would clap his lips on it, like he would just hang it out. And anyway, if you look at his tongue, I don't know if any of you guys have actually looked at a horse's tongue up close, but there is an area where it does get thicker. It's right before where the bit sits. There is like a deep, permanent groove worn into most of these horses' mouths.
Yeah, and I've sort of been talking about that more and more lately. It's really hard for me because I can't actually prove it, but the number of grooms, see, a lot of grooms come to me because they can't speak. And so I've been a pathway for grooms all around the world. And it's the same thing is they come to me and they say, like, for example, Bennett Kahn's horse, they're like, oh, that horse has a butchered tongue. And I'll post the photo on Facebook tomorrow of the tongue photo you sent me where the horse's tongue is out of the mouth and you can see like the actual damage to the tongue of the horse.
Yeah, and that's like very common. There was one time actually, so like I said, I had my own mare there, and she was, I believe, 4 at the time. So like just doing like very basic stuff. I had already started her before bringing her to there, but obviously I did not lunge my horses, or had I ever seen horses lunge in such a manner until I went there. And one of the times when Evie was home, this was when she was in Florida. She flew home to check the horses, but she gave me a lesson with my horse. And I wasn't lunging her properly, so she took my horse and showed me what she thought was lunging her property. Anyway, like I said, stirrup leathers to the side reins, and I have pictures of all this, and I will never forgive myself for allowing this to be done to my horse, which actually I've since named my entire business after. I remember texting her, and I have the device that I had when I worked there, so I still have all these text messages and messages. I remember coming to Evie with concern because I remember I went back to the stable and I seen my horse's mouth and I literally cried. I literally cried and I didn't let Evie see how upset I was, but I did text her and I think I sent her a picture and I was like, what do I do? Like, this is so bad. And like, she literally brushed it off and was just like, oh, she'll heal. She'll be fine. It's normal. So like to her, that's just like a normal thing, I guess.
And where was the damage to your horse's mouth?
On the tongue.
On the,
Yeah.
they sliced open the tongue. Not even the
Yeah, and it
lips.
was
Like lips we see a lot, but to slice open a tongue is horrific.
it was pressure splits. Pressure splits because she was such a big mare. And I don't know, like most of their horses there, they're smaller, sportier Oldenburgs. And like she was 17, 2 hands probably, like a big mare. Like you can't do that. And anyway, they were trying to. My poor girl. But yeah.
So does she still have damage on her tongue today that you can see?
I'm not sure. I did have her for years after that, but I can't remember if I ever looked years later to see.
I don't think it really heals that well. I think tongues, once they're damaged, are damaged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, totally. It's like smooth muscle there. Like it's very evident when there's been damage done.
Someone asked, how do they hide the wounds on other horses when a buyer walks through the stable?
When buyers slash clients come to the stable, it's like a production. Everything is already cleaned. Like, forget lunging. No horses are lunged because no one could see that. Only the horses that are going well, in Evie's opinion, are ridden in front of these people. Like, she's an expert at hiding it. Like, there's another specific incident that I can recall very vividly that I will tell you about here shortly. But afterward, the horse was barely recognizable after what she did to him, and they just threw a cooler on him, chucked him in a stall.
And I think that's the thing, right? Is it's so the horses all look like they match, right? They all have nice coolers on in their stalls. And to be fair, most of us blanket our horses all the time. Like it's either a stall sheet or a turnout sheet, so you don't wouldn't even think anything of it. To walk through a stable where it's all covered up.
And it's just a rare occurrence for that to happen. Like normally, if a buyer's coming, they're flying in, so like we know well in advance. I'm like told to have everything looking just so, all that stuff.
So I know that there's a question. I know I talk about this a lot about, I use the word the establishment, and there's people who are indoctrinated into the system, and then there's those of us who walked away because we don't want to be in the system. And somebody on the chat is asking, how are vets, dentists, farriers not seeing the abuse and not reporting it? And I,
They
I'm
see it.
I'm gonna let you answer that because in my opinion the laws don't go far enough, and it's kind of a tricky area because they're still considered livestock. But I'm gonna let Shelby answer that from her perspective.
So one of the worst incidents that I haven't told you guys about yet that I witnessed, one of the farriers was there that day, and I can't remember what he said to me after he witnessed all this and seeing that I was like in distress, but he said something to me about like wow, like that was really intense. Like I don't even know what to say. And in my mind, I'm like, well, you could say something, but he never said anything.
And
And I think that's why they're so selective about the veterinarians they use. Like, they don't just have any vets come in, it's ones that they've been friends with for years. They know the drill.
yeah, and I think it's hard as a vet because your job ethically is to treat and fix horses. The abuse, if you report the abuse, you've ended your relationship with the client. And chances are the laws aren't going to actually fix the problem.
Yeah.
And so you've just created, and we've, again, I go back to how they tried to, the attacks against you escalated today when they knew about the tell-all. Those attacks are not new to either of us or anybody who's been in one of these situations in the industry. And as a vet, that's your career that they will have no qualms about trying to destroy. And so that's a big part of the reason people don't talk.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay. At her barn and turn a blind eye to. That's
Yes.
I'm gonna let Shelby answer that from her perspective, but I'm gonna say yes because almost all of the Canadians, with the exception of, I believe, Megan Lane, and then the Irwins, all of them train with Camp Ashley. Ashley Holzer, who is the number one most featured rider on Dressage Hub. And she's also very, very good at hiding what's going on behind the scenes. And so, from my perspective, they're all doing it. I can't say that, but like, you see the horses. Like, what I talk about on Dressage Hub is the behavior patterns of horses. So, if one horse of Ashley Holzer's reacted that way, you say it's a one off. But every single one, and then every single one of her students' horses does the same thing, you start to ask the question. So I'm going to let Shelby answer that question from her perspective.
Sorry, I didn't catch that last part.
So have other Canadian trainers seen her train at her barn and turn a blind eye to?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's shocking to me. Like, this is the first time that I've really gone public, like I'm live right now. But I have been vocal on my own social media about my experience, like at these places in the past. And you would be astonished with the number of messages I have received from other grooms of EVs and many other Canadian and American riders that have that, like, it's almost scary how similar some of the accounts of abuse are. So clearly there are some parallels together. And like, I really, in the beginning, I really, like, the was one battle, and then like the more I just sat back and these people keep coming to me, it's like, it's kind of heartbreaking because like I grew up with all these people, like their posters on my wall, like all I ever wanted to do was like ride like them, or so I thought. And then like I'm hearing all things, and it's like I don't even care anymore. I just want to ride my own horses and like breed horses for everyday people. And
So both Esme and Mon asking the same question, which you're kind of leading into. So it works well here. It's the question of why didn't you leave? And I think it's because we're all sold a dream, which is kind of what you're lending it to. So go ahead and answer that. Like, why didn't you leave on the first time you saw something?
Oh, I have lots to tell you about this.
Yeah, and give us like the Cliff Notes version, because I know like I've got my note from our meeting beforehand, and that's probably going to be in part two. But give us the sort of the Cliff Notes version of like it wasn't that simple, and let's talk about why.
So first of all, I was being paid like literally nothing while I was there because my salary was mostly taken up with my training board, allegedly. So I could not afford to leave, first of all. Second of all, there were many times that I was trying to like set the scene for leaving many times. While I was there, my mother, she had a heart attack, and I went to Evie. I was like, look, my mom, she's not doing well. She had a heart attack. And I kid you not, she word for word said to me, well, she didn't fucking die, did she? As in, like, why do you gotta leave? She's alive. She's fine. Like, get over it. Literally how she spoke to me, my mom having a heart attack. So I'm like, okay, this isn't gonna be as easy as I thought. And again, I'm like brainstorming. I'm like, how the heck am I gonna afford to like leave this place? Because I'm not leaving my horse here. That was the biggest thing. My mare was there with me, and there was no way on God's green earth I was going to leave that property and leave her there, because I can promise you that, and now I hope not all the trainers are like this, but she is the kind of person that, like, if she's upset with a human being, like a client or a student or whatever, she'll take it out on your horse. So, like, I was not letting that happen to my horse. Like, everyone, horses included, were terrified of this woman, and my poor horse in the stable. It's like, horses are such sentient beings, and I swear to God, they could like feel the distress that the horses are going through in the arena. And I remember seeing my mare, she'd literally be there flinching and wincing as if she was the one getting hit, and she'd never been abused like that. Like, it's like, they know. So anyway, I was not leaving her there. So how I did end up leaving is I had a riding accident where a horse fell on me, and I shattered my left leg and I tore everything in my knee, and I wasn't going to be able to ride for a really long time. So in my head, I'm like, thank God this is my way out of this place. Like, she's not going to want me here. Like, I'm completely useless. I can't walk for, 8 months or whatever. And even still, it wasn't that easy, because then first she accused me of trying to take a free vacation, and tells me how my injury just fucked everything up, and now she can't go to Belgium, and blah, 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 blah. So she's trying to get me to stay, as in, like, stay while I recovered and keep working for her, because I don't know if it's because she thought I might talk about something, or people would speculate about my riding accident. I'm really not sure.
Okay, so let's get a little bit more into your riding accident, and then we can come back to trying to leave. Because in my opinion, it's attempted manslaughter, and that's my personal opinion, not my legal opinion, obviously, but it's that horrific. So let's talk about your accident.
So like I said, my mare was considerably bigger than most of the horses there. So, like, she did not move like them. She had very different breeding. Like, she's just never gonna go like those horses are gonna go. And Evie's just determined to make my horse fit this mold. And according to Evie, my half halts were not going through. So Evie would get me to use the wall as a half halt. Now, some people might hear this and be like, oh, like I did that in my lesson last week. When I say use the wall as a half halt, I mean this woman would tell me to run my horse at the wall. Like, and not let the horse turn. Use the wall to force the horse to stop. Why that made sense, I don't know. Like, now that I know what I know about horses and behavior, that's like the most outrageous thing I've ever heard in my life. But anyway, that is what she was getting me to do. And that is what happened when my horse fell on top of me. She flipped right over me, and it was the first time in my life that I genuinely thought, as we were heading towards the ground, that I was going to die. Because, like I said, she's huge, like 17-2 hands. She did like a full, like, somersault, like a rotational fall. So she rolls over me. I hear a bunch of crunching, and I'm amazed that she rolls off me. And I'm like, I'm
So
alive.
I want to be really clear. When you're going into the wall, Evie's chasing your horse.
She wasn't chasing me in this moment when I fell, but that's how the training was. Yeah.
Okay.
That's the method for getting the half halt. Chase your horse at the wall.
Okay.
So yeah, thankfully, like, she rolled off of me. I was kind of like, I don't know if I was in shock. I was like, okay, maybe I rolled my ankle, so I'm like limping, trying to get my horse to the barn, because I know I have to take care of the horses, or Edie's gonna like kick my ass. So I'm taking my horse back to the barn, and I'm starting to worry because I can't walk. I know something's wrong with my knee. Like, my whole leg's like a noodle. To this day, I still don't know how I fed all the horses supper, but I did that, and then I braced myself because I texted Evie. I was like, hey, like, I think I rolled my ankle. I'm going to the hospital. Which she freaked the hell out on me. She's like, "Oh my god, like you're so stupid. Like why would you do that? As in, why would you do what I literally told you to do?" Like literally blaming me for it. So anyway, that's that, and I get to the hospital, and it's way worse than anyone thought. And yeah.
So you want to talk about your injuries that you actually occurred?
Yeah, so they didn't even count all the pieces. The doctor was like, "Yeah, your left foot's shattered." Like, because I had stiff riding boots on, so like my ankle couldn't bend, so my foot folded in half and broke all the bones across like the middle of my foot. And I tore my ACL and meniscus and had to have reconstructive surgery 2 weeks later. Which in between here, Evie's trying to manipulate me into using a private doctor and all this stuff, and being all nicey nice at this point. This is before the threats and blackmail stage. This is the "I'm your best friend, I'm going to help you get through this" stage.
Yeah, and I think this is kind of a turning point for where everything starts to go. I mean, if you thought it was horrific before, this is the turning point where this story becomes even more horrific. Um, and I think this is where it really, I mean, I don't have the words, I think, to talk about the next piece. So you're at the hospital. You come home from the hospital. What
Yeah.
happens
And
next?
so this is my first day home. This is post-op. So after I had my surgery, I'm in bed
How
in
long were
my
you in the
house.
hospital for?
I was able to schedule the surgery for like 2 weeks after the accident. So like I just kind of suffered at home with my injuries and then went for the surgery.
Okay.
But when I came home from the surgery, I was obviously bedridden because I just had a bunch of metal rods put in my leg. And I'm on pain medication, which I'm someone who, like, I don't even take Advil. Stuff like that makes me super sick. So anyway, it's pretty sure it's a Saturday, which was I think that was my day off at the time. Anyway, but I'm laying in bed. I have a pot next to my bed that I've literally been vomiting in. And Evie, who up until that point, I don't even think she'd ever come in my living quarters, like the house that I lived on property. She barges in, comes into my room while I'm laying in bed, sick and literally on like morphine, starts screaming at me, like spit flying out of her mouth, how I've ruined everything. I'm just trying to take a free vacation. I'm just using her. I have to figure this out and find her a new groom because now she can't go to Belgium, blah, 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 blah. And like, I'm in shock because like, I didn't see this coming. In hindsight, would have loved to record that conversation. But like I said, she literally barged into my house. Well, not my house, but where I was staying on property. So yeah, she just kind of leaves me to mull over what just happened. And obviously, like, I don't know what to think. Because, like, what does someone do after they say all that? So I clearly see that this person is an extremely, like, angry, volatile human being. Okay,
So
it's really setting it.
at this point, how long have you been at Evie's?
I think this is like at the 8-month mark.
Okay. So I know a lot of people are asking like, why didn't you leave? Why didn't you leave sooner? But like, really, she didn't come home from. So there's first 4 months that you were there. Evie wasn't there.
Yeah, that's right.
So
she was in Florida with most of the horses.
Right. So there was really only like a 3 or 4 month time where you were there with Evie.
Yeah.
Until
like
this
I
happened.
Said, like, I could not afford to leave. Like I wasn't getting paid enough. And like at this time during my accident, I knew that my previous employer, the one that recommended me to go work for Evie, because she had no idea about any of this. She thought this was going to be wonderful for me. She thought she was, helping me get my foot in the door, doing me a huge favor. So I catch wind that she's coming up to train at Evie's while I'm there, okay? And
can I interrupt for a second? So I want to talk because I think this is really key. I want to talk about how predatory the industry is in this situation. How many of us have been told that's the dream? You go work for a top rider, you slave away, you pour your blood, sweat, and tears in it. You just gotta do your time. You've got to, like, that's the way to make it to the top, is you, slave labor is the dream. And that's really
They
what
like groom.
the entire industry is predatory, and they groom young women for this situation. And I'm going to have more videos talking about it, but across the board, we're told this is the way you get to the top. This is it. This is what you do. You give yourself, every single one of us in this room, which is probably a couple hundred people now, has been told that the way you get to the top is you make that sacrifice and you do whatever they tell you to do, and you just shut up and do that. And so,
She was preaching that.
yeah, yeah, and they sell that dream to you. And I think that's one of the key takeaways from this, is this predatory piece, because they take you away, they isolate you from your family, they don't give you enough money to leave, and then they abuse the crap out of you. And that is
I
the
was also
system.
back where I didn't know French. So like, and yes, I'm Canadian, but when you're in that area and you can't speak French, people think you're not speaking French because you're just purposely being rude. Like,
Yeah. And
I
they're,
had no one to talk to there.
yeah, comprehensive K9. It's all the way up the system, from the free barn help on the weekends. It's very predatory, and I have a series that's coming up talking about the pipeline of predatory behavior of top professionals, and I think people are going to get really uncomfortable with it. But that's what we talk about here at Sauna Shop.
Get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah, yeah, because there's a lot, and honestly, like, I think this is so good, because I think it's refreshing for other people to hear what I hear all the time, right? You're the first person to be willing to speak up, and I appreciate that so much. But I hear stories like yours on a daily basis, over and over on repeat, of people who are too scared to talk and too scared to do the right thing, and that's what they rely on. So when things go sideways, they ramp up the levels of abuse, manipulation, and intimidation. Yeah.
Oh, I just see someone asked why people are saying Evie was at the Ottawa Dressage Fest when I got injured, and she was. But I'm not sure what that has to do with anything.
Oh, I'm sure that there's a chat room going outside
sure.
outside of this, where
Yeah.
people are trying to say that.
That's why I said I
And,
was texting her this. Like,
yeah,
hey, like
and I verified that, because I asked if Evie was chasing your horse at that point in time, and you said no. So we're not there. People are trying to create problems already, right? They're going to go through this live stream and try to tear it apart, but that's fine. People do that to me all the time.
broad
Um,
shoulders.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so we have a couple options here. We can keep going depending on how you're feeling, and it's 100% up to you. Or we can do a part two, which we had originally planned to do a part two and possibly a part three, because we only got halfway through our notes.
It's totally up to you guys. I'm down for whichever. I'm just here to answer questions, and I want all of this out there.
Okay, so
Because people
let's
don't understand
let's leave
how
the
it's-
let's leave the notes for now, and then open it up to questions on all three platforms, and see, and then we can come back to the point of, like, she's yelling and screaming at you, you're basically bedridden, and we can start back from that point. We'll do another live stream next week maybe, and then kind of continue this story, because I think there's a lot here.
There's a lot. I kind of left BTS shortly after that, but let me tell you, this stuff did not continue. Like, there's a lot of stuff to get through.
Yeah, and in my own personal experiences too, that it's so funny that everybody thinks when you leave it stops, but that's actually just the starting point of how bad it's about to get. And I think that's what people need to understand, is, like, I had the same experience with a trainer in Wellington. When I left, that's when it got really bad.
Oh yeah, they were attacking my employer after I left. They were blackmailing me. When I started posting on my social media last year, calling out Equestrian Canada for ignoring my complaints,
People
she sent me
on Facebook
sent me
are
assist.
people on you're ruining the spoilers, Shelby. You've got to save that for next week.
Oh
Um,
no, okay. Okay.
um, People are dying on Facebook. Teresa wants to know what happened after being screamed at. Was she sacked? Was she paid while being unable to work? Teresa, she was not paid at all for any of this. It was a
No.
working student position.
I did get $500 a month to pay for like food and my phone bill. So like when you pay your phone bill, like say that's 150. Yeah, good luck. Good luck. It was rough times, but I thought I was doing what I needed to do to be successful, and I learned that that was just a load of crap.
Okay, so I wanna read some of these to you because I think it's important as part of the healing journey. Ashley says, "Not a question, but so proud of you, Shelby. Having watched this entire journey, I am so proud." Um, Amy, who paid for her injuries, that is, she was in Canada, so it was covered. Yay, Canada.
Except when I first got there, they wouldn't help me until I gave them my credit card info. They treated me like I was from a different country.
Because it's Quebec.
Yeah.
Um, Sunita says you're so brave to come forward, but she also doesn't want you to stop telling her the story. She can't handle the suspense. Um, Chantel
That's
says,
lots, you guys.
yeah.
We're just getting started.
Chantel says thank you for speaking up. Is there any discussion of her being charged and horses taken from her? She was just suspended again, so I think we have to leave that in the agency, the organization's hands at this point. Someone
they're still
says,
investing.
yeah, someone said, mine chased me for years. The violence was insane, but so many of us have a story. Melissa and I agree, and I think that's why when Shelby was willing to come forward, I was quick to hop on it. And, because I think it will start to allow more of us to come forward and talk about what's happening, and it takes their power away. I think today is really a big step for us in the industry and being able for the victims to have a voice.
Well, right now they're playing it off like me coming forward. It's like a holier than thou like competition, and it's not. Like I'm here to talk about the things that went on in the burn, the stuff I participated in, and like how those things all came about. Like this isn't about like getting back at people like that. Those are some of the comments I'm making. I'm like, get back for what? Like I genuinely just
think they're also
care.
the narrative of a disgruntled groom.
Oh yeah.
Is the big
You
one
know
that
what disgruntles me? Horse abuse.
yeah, and I think I think telling your story really enables them to see, yeah, I'd be disgruntled if that was happening to me too, right? Like if I had to like watch a horse with its eyeballs swollen shut from being beat, like I would be disgruntled. I get disgruntled
Yep.
about less. Jen says thank you for so much for being brave to talk about all of this. A lot of people with comments I probably can't repeat. Um, yeah, lots of really good support for you. Lots of people. Anybody else have any other questions?
One thing I do want to say, if there's anyone watching this right now and they're like thinking about coming forward, I just want you to know that despite what some people make you think and believe, that like you will be taken down and they will come after you legally, almost all of that is empty threats. Because I promise you, if these people could do that, they would have already. And like I've had this stuff in front of lawyers before, and like he's laughed. Like there's just what else to say?
Yeah, and it's a very common thing in Wellington to make those threats, and I think that's why I publish all the threats that I get, because I think it's important to people to see that they're just lip service.
I was promised conflagration, which basically means like they're gonna burn everything to the ground for me, and it's like, okay, well, I ride my horse in a crop field in Alberta in my backyard, and I guess you can go hide in the bushes and try to spook my horse or something. I don't know.
Okay, so there's a couple questions here. Why do you think the first suspension of Evie got retried? We talked about that on Dressage Hub, that she just pulled some shady legal stuff right towards the deadline, and they couldn't make the deadline to make it not happen. So it's just legal paperwork mumbo jumbo.
Yeah.
So
the Court of Arbitration of Sport, they can like override the FEI's decisions. So like they're the ones that lifted the ban when she filed that appeal at the last minute, but it was just purely because of like what you just said. And they've been trying, the FBI has been working behind the scenes to get the CAS on the same page, which is why the suspension was reimposed a couple of days ago.
Yeah, so that's great news that they were able to actually take that action. How did she get out, and where are you today? We're going to answer that in part 2 next week. Lady Mary says, are you worried about how the judges will treat you and other dressage pros?
Oh, I know lots of people right now in my life are like, they're watching all this. I see them watching it, but they're not saying a word. They're just kind of seeing how this unfolds. And it's because that they have friends in these circles and they're waiting to see if it just goes away.
Oh, this is really sad. Someone said, Kelly D said, I rode a beautiful mare trained by Evie, probably closer to 20, 25 years ago. Beautiful mare, but now I feel like I should have just groomed her in the field and let her have her piece. Oh, that's heartbreaking.
You can't beat yourself up. Like, people don't know what they don't know, and people like this are expert at hiding things like this.
Well,
what people don't understand when we talk about abusers, and they're like, oh, well, I don't understand, like, they're so nice to me. It's like, abusers do not go around abusing everyone and everything. Yeah. How do you think they get away with it?
They're very charismatic. They're very charismatic. And I think that's the hard part, right? Because in the horse world, people are so happy and they all schmooze together. And Shelby, Shadowfan wants to know your opinion of the FBI.
Oh.
Short answer. Short answer.
I'm on the fence. I'm on the fence. They tell me things that make me want to believe that they're taking this seriously, but I mean, it's been 6 years now since all of this, and yeah.
Amanda says, I don't know, you can see these comments, right? So proud of you, so very proud of you, Shelby, and I know how hard it's been for you. And I think that's important to know that there is a community behind you and really supporting you at this point. So Sunita says it is a cult. Yes, it is a cult.
It is very similar to that. Like I said, when I showed up for this party, like everyone's like, oh, welcome to the family. And let me tell you, when you hear that in the workplace, just run.
Yeah. I don't even like it amongst friends. Like when I meet new friends and they were like calling someone grandpa and uncle and like, it weirds me out. It's weird. It's weird.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, they make you feel like you're part of an exclusive club when you like are complicit with these things, and then like again it snowballs and you see more and more, and then before you know it you're in the middle of the arena after getting told to dismount off the horse and you're witnessing what I just described. Like, it doesn't start out that way. You don't just go somewhere like this and you just immediately see this. Like I said, it started with like, you know, I'd see some horses behind the vertical, you know, a couple things. I'm like, oh, that's, you know, everything I've read says that this is wrong, what I'm seeing. And yeah, it starts small.
Wendy makes a valuable point that Para still has a full barn even after everything came out numerous times, several times.
Business.
Yeah, and they're very charismatic people. And I think the key is they want people indoctrinated to the system. So they want to call people out. I'm one of the few that managed to get into the inner circle of Wellington because they thought I was complicit with the establishment. And I was. I absolutely was. Although I wasn't to the extreme of what Shelby was experiencing. I saw a lot of it, not necessarily at the barn that I was, the first barn I was at, not the second one. The second one was good. But they allow you into their inner circles because they think you're one of them and you're complicit. And I absolutely was at the time. But once like I detoxed from the horse world and stepped away from it a little bit and kind of processed what had happened, then I know all their secrets, right? Like Shelby's talking about what they hide and how they hide it and what they do it and how they groom you and how they indoctrinate you and how they make you feel special and how they bring you up. And if you're willing to sort of jump through these hoops, then they're going to bring you to the next level of this. And then you jump through these hoops and they test you at each level to see how complicit you're going to be. But you don't get to the top of the establishment without being complicit.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. All right, you
Like
guys.
once
We
you're. Sorry, go ahead.
go ahead, Shelby. Okay. We are going to wrap on that because we're an hour and 15 in. Thank you all for being here. We're going to do part 2 next week. I still have another 2 pages of notes that Shelby and I have prepped. Um, we will talk about how she got out from that moment of where Evie barged into her room and started yelling and screaming at her. And then what happens next. So we'll go from there forward, because this is the point where like really it starts to get chaotic. If you thought the other stuff was really bad, the next stuff is like. So I think when we talk about abuse, we talk about the animal abuse, we talk about human rights violations, and I think that's kind of where we're at a turning point as it becomes both. So
May I do something?
absolutely.
I see Allie B. Queen's comment, kind of asking about why they haven't heard from other people who probably witnessed this. And I don't think people understand the hold that this woman has over people. Because make no mistake, like when I left there, I had people reach out to me. There was a group chat. I think there's way more than this now, but I think there was 8 other grooms at the time. And at that time, all of the other grooms were so terrified of even speaking about this. Like one girl, she's like, honestly, like I don't even feel safe having my name in this group chat and I'm leaving. And only one other girl from that particular group chat ended up talking about things publicly. But like this is how scared people are of her. And that's why they don't talk about it. So it's try not to villainize the ones that you think are complicit too much, because sometimes they are victims as well behind closed doors.
Yeah, and that's the stuff to me. Allie B says they came forward about Para but never said a word about the Strassers, and that tells you the establishment, who's in with the establishment, yes. Because there was a lot that came forward about Para, and then when it came to Evie, you look on the threads, like there's like hundreds and hundreds of comments, like 300 comments, and half the people that would trash Para would empathize with Evie, and that tells you exactly who is part of the establishment. It is so transparent as who is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it tells you everything you need to know. Yeah.
Because it's a lot of them.
Yeah, literally the person who outed Para was an Evie empathizer. Mind blown.
Yeah, I was a little shocked reading that one.
Yeah.
But it goes to show.
XOXO, I don't.
I hope she is.
I hope she isn't. I think she's asking, how do you know if your trainer's part of the establishment?
Oh, I thought she meant how do we know if the one we're talking about is in here?
Yeah, no, I think I don't know. It's been an hour and a half. I don't know.
It'll all be available later, and you guys can all send it and share it to whoever.
Yeah, I'll chop it up into like consumable chunks and little stories, and yeah. Thank you guys. You guys have all been great. Very attentive. This has been a long live. But like I said, we'll get into some of the crazier stuff that's happening next week.
Yes, and go follow me, I guess, so I can join live with my face.
Yeah, and we'll get some. I'll just like overlay your face. Okay, awesome. All right, you guys, thank you so much. I appreciate all of you, and thank you, Shelby, for sharing your story. I think this is about to create a big pivot point for change in the industry. So I appreciate you taking the time to speak with us.
Well, thanks for listening, everyone.
All right. Bye, everyone. Bye, everyone. Bye, everyone. I have to say it 3 times. All right, you guys.